you're good enough.
Interesting.
Because I think that I have a lot of abilities. I have a lot of skills and talents. But like I said, when you have something, a lot of the time you take it for granted, or you don't, maybe not even take it for granted, but you don't realize how great what you have is.
Hello and welcome to this our Sense in Nonsense broadcast with me, your host Jacob Shumwe, the Enabler. Sense in Nonsense is designed to showcase people's seemingly nonsense experience that they've gone through in life and been able to overcome it and come out the other end, and they can see the sense in what they went through. It's just like Steve Jobs described when he says you can connect the dots looking back, you can't connect it going forward. So today, let us welcome our guest, Mrs. Tinuke Akinbulumo. Tinuke, welcome.
Thank you for having me. I'm really excited about this.
Oh, fantastic. So first of all, tell us about yourself.
You know, I hate that. I really hate that.
It's like an interview question, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's one like, what do you want to know? Yeah,
yes.
What do you want to know about me?
Yeah.
So, okay, my name is Tinuke Akinbulumo.
Okay, welcome.
Is it personal stuff you want or everything?
Well, what do you...
So if I was answering that question
us,
just randomly, I would say my name is Tinuke. I am a mother, a wife. I have 4 children. I am one who rocks her own gorgeous, who loves life and believes in moments, celebrating every moment, experiencing every moment, including the bad moments, just moment by moment. Because I think we're so quick to miss things because I guess society, we just miss things. So I look at the moments, I pay attention to moments, and I try to celebrate every moment, and I rock my own gorgeous. That's what I would say.
Fantastic. I seem to remember a tagline. Shea Zaza. I didn't get that.
You didn't get that because Shea Zaza is one of my things that I do. I do many things, and Shea Zaza is so Shea in the French. Do you understand it? I don't know if you. So Shea in the French word means like, if you say Shea Michelle, it means Michelle's place at Michelle,
right.
Like almost like Michelle's home. So Shea Zaza. Zaza is my initials. Zainab Atinke Sarah Adelaja Akinbulumo. So it's my initials, and Shea Zaza is like Zaza's place. So it's where I invite people into my space. And it's different things, but I think the one you're talking about is the chat show, because I have a chat show, but Shea Zaza is much bigger than just the chat show.
Interesting. I remember Che Guevara. More like that. Well, Shea Zaza, interesting. So, Tinuke, I'm sure you must have had many challenges that you have overcome and that you've looked back and seen the sense in it after you've been through it and overcome it.
Yes.
Would you care to share with us one of them or some of them?
You see, it's a very interesting. I mean, when I had the conversation with you, I was like,
yes.
Okay, this makes sense. I don't know that I have ever, you know my mom. And we were brought up in this, you get on with it, life happens,
yes.
Life is not fair, something happens to you, there's no use crying over spilt milk, you just pick yourself up and you go on. So we've always had that sort of mindset. And I think because of that, when people talk about, challenges, we went through a challenge, it's always hard for me to identify a challenge because I just see them as part of life, part of growing, part of, you know what I mean? But of course, there are things that are, I mean, one, if you wanted to, I'd never do this, but I'll do it for you. If you wanted to, I can say the first challenge that I went through, which I never do, by the way, is that I grew up without a dad. Now, obviously, people always say, how did how was it growing up without a dad? And I'm always like, I don't know what it's like to grow up with a dad. So, it was fine. You know what I mean? But people think of that as a major challenge. Like, oh my gosh, a girl. I don't. Because that was my reality. And I think sometimes that's the difference. Perspective. So when you just see things as, this is what I'm going through now. How do I, what my ex-boss always used to say, I love it because you're a problem solver. And I never saw myself as a problem solver, but I realized that my upbringing, that whole thing of just get on with it, is that when you're getting on with it, you have to find, okay, how can I make this work? Or here I am now, what am I going to do to, to make it, to survive, or whatever it is. So you don't, so effectively you're a problem solver, but I never really looked at myself as a problem solver. You go through the the challenge, and
come
it suddenly does not become a challenge because you're now
it's part
like
of life.
it's part of life, and this
yes.
is just a little blip in my journey, and I'm just going to keep going. So I haven't answered your question, have I?
well, you have to a certain extent. However, one of our taglines when we were setting up this show is when life gets interrupted. So that's more the focus on the challenge. It's more like you're living your life and all of a sudden something happens. It's because the whole essence of this show is that there are people out there who are going through so many different challenges. And this is to inspire them that somebody else went through what you are going through out there and they came out of it. And it's also possible for you to come out of what you're going through. Because these days a lot of people think, oh, see my life. Oh, I'm finished. I don't know what to do. And all they need is just a little bit of hope and the awareness of the possibility that it's possible for me to also get out of this.
Okay, so if I was to think of what I would class, probably, I mean, again, in retrospect, everything looks different.
Sure.
But what I would class at the time, maybe as a major thing, was when we were relatively newlywed. We just had a baby, but it was early years of our marriage, and we had to give up our home because we couldn't afford it. So it was one of those things where, to a certain extent, I think my husband was in denial at first. We're like, don't worry, we'll manage, we'll get it. But the reality is we're not getting it. Nothing is happening. I was on maternity leave, so the income was just not adding up was not adding up. So in the end we had to make the decision before the house was taken from us to get rid of the house. And so effectively we were homeless, if you want. I mean, I put it in inverted commas because we weren't on the street. But we were homeless for a period of time, going from friend's house to friend's house, you know what I mean? Sleeping on, we're not sleeping on couches, that sounds, it was, but we weren't in our own home. And we were moving around. And I think that for me was because it was almost like we had done so much to get the house. You know what I mean? We've gone through. Absolutely. It's like we've got the house. We knew it was actually, to be fair, when we got it, it wasn't a stretch. It was fine. We could do it. But then something happened with my husband. Life happened. My husband's business, and then of course I was on maternity leave. So whilst I was getting something, you only get it for a period of time. So we just couldn't balance the and I think that was because you don't realize until you are homeless what it is to be homeless. And this is not being homeless on the street. This is just being home, having nowhere that you can call your own. Because first of all, you feel like a burden to the people you're with. And I think it was worse because I had a baby. If I was by myself, I could leave the house first thing in the morning, or you know what I mean, you could kind of make yourself discreet, kind of, but you couldn't. So you feel like a burden. Well, I certainly did. I don't know whether you have to speak to my husband, but I certainly felt like it. And it was easier for him to be out or not around as much because he didn't have to, you know what I mean? So that was that. And then obviously there wasn't how are we even going to, where do we even start to, because before we gave up the house, we had tried to go to the house association, the council or whatever, see if they could, but they couldn't do anything for us. For they have criteria, whatever. We really didn't fit into what they were looking for. So it wasn't it was okay, so the only way out of this is to find somewhere to rent, but then you need the deposit, you need the whole sort of thing. And honestly, at the time, I just remember thinking, I mean, obviously I'm a believer, so there was never a point where I was like, I'm finished, but there was a point where I was like, Lord, come on now.
I'm going to pull you up on that. You said you're a believer. What does that mean?
I believe in Jesus. I'm a born again Christian, and I have faith. So I don't, and I believe that everything happens for a reason. I believe that everything works itself out for good, So I don't see things as that's what I said from the beginning. I don't really see things, but this particular situation, and more so because I was a new mother and I had a child. If I didn't have a child, I'm not sure I would have even seen it as a disaster. I would have just been like, okay, you know what, get on with it. But because of the situation, I was like, is this what I'm bringing we've just brought a child into this one, that this is it, where, you know what I mean? So there was a lot more, not pressure, but a lot more, the responsibility of having someone else completely,
that you're caring for.
So it just made it a bit different, I think, in that situation. So obviously, but because, and I was still going to church, I was still doing all, and I was just like, Lord, and I'm even, as I'm talking to you now, I'm trying to think what happened. I mean, we spent many months going from place to place before we finally did get a
Settle
place.
somewhere.
You know what I mean? Because you just, I don't know how it is in Nigeria, but you here you can't. You have to have the deposits, the 1 month deposit, but you can't just arrive. I think it's even worse in Nigeria. You pay like 2 years in advance or something. What I mean,
yes.
but what I mean is you can't, you can't just move into somewhere with nothing. You have to have something. So that was, if I was to give you a challenge, that I think at the time but I really think it was because I was a new mother. I just thought.
So, what part did your faith have to play in all of that?
Well, I just knew that if God had allowed this to happen, even though it was our own fault, I mean, we have a big part to play in that. So I'm not saying God threw us out, but I just knew that if God allowed this to happen, He had a plan and we would come out of it. So it was just a question of holding on till we came out of it, and I didn't know if that was going to be 2 months, if that was going to be 2 years, and what do we do in that time? So it's literally one day at a time, and then eventually you come out of it.
So in essence, it's like there's a period of waiting when you don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
And at the end, something beautiful comes out of it.
Yes. But when I will hesitate there, because when you say when you don't know what's going to happen, I didn't know what was going to happen, but I knew it would be okay. Do you understand what I mean? So I didn't know specifically in the detail what was going to happen, but at no point did I think I'm finished. And I think that's a faith thing. Now, if I didn't have faith, potentially, I would have been like, wow, that's it. But I think so that's probably the role that my faith played, in the sense that it still gave me hope, even though I didn't have a clue how or where, but I knew that it will all end well.
Two things I take from this. One is your faith. Obviously, you held on to your faith. The other sounds like resilience.
Yes.
Because that's a quality that what I'm looking for. You see, what I've found in life is that people say, oh, how do you go through this? How do you go through that? Or how do you do this? And from discussions that I have with several various people, one thing I pick out in some of them is their resilience. That, no matter what, something is going to happen. I'm not going to give up. I'm not going to be a victim or a casualty. So, and I think that's a quality, an attribute that is required in order to be a victor as opposed to be a victim. And that's one of the qualities that I take from there. That's great. I remember you also sharing with me your journey into media, into broadcasting.
Yes.
And some people would say that doesn't make sense.
Well, it's so funny,
So
because again,
I
I come back to this whole thing of Christianity, and nothing happens by mistake. And God has a plan. We don't know, we can't see what it is, but God knows. And so what I was saying to you was that the first time I was on TV was 10 years old at Bola Ige's house, some Christmas party he had, and for some reason they just decided to film me and him. He was talking to me and he found out my name was Tinuke, and obviously his wife's name was Tinuke, so he was like, oh, you can be a Tinuke Ige if you find an Ige to marry. I can never forget that. that was the only conversation we had, and then he said happy Christmas or whatever, and that was it. So I was on TV then, and then little by little, I mean, we did school plays which were on TV, so I was on TV in different ways, but not as anything big.
Did you ever think that maybe you would go into broadcasting, into TV?
I didn't think about it like that.
Right, okay.
What I did do is I would watch people like Ronke Ayuba and I would think, oh, this looks nice. No, I never thought about it as something I would do. I just thought, I was fascinated by, they always look so beautiful, and they would talk so well, and they would deliver the news, you know what I mean? So I liked it, but it wasn't something that I consciously felt I would go into. I mean, I personally thought I was going to be an air hostess because I just wanted to be traveling. So I was like,
I wanted to be a pilot when I was growing up.
But it's not because I wanted to be an air hostess. It's actually just because I like traveling. So I thought that was the answer. So I didn't think of it like that. But then my mom once said something to me and my sister, and she was just talking about the way we speak. And she said we need to speak with the Queen's English, we speak with the Queen's English, and we shouldn't really have any accents. This is a UK accent. Sure. She was like, you don't have, and she mentioned two people. She said Zainab Badawi and Moira Stewart. She said, if you can't speak like Zainab Badawi or Moira Stewart, it's better that you speak in your Nigerian accent. So either you speak in your Nigerian accent, or if you're speaking in a British accent, then you make sure that you speak in a neutral accent. So the Queen's, when she says Queen's English, what she meant was neutral, as in so nobody can tell where you come from. So she mentioned those two names. It didn't mean anything to me at the time.
Yes.
It's later, in retrospect, that I realized that those were the only two black women newscasters on TV at the time. So I haven't checked with her, but I'm sure that was deliberate because she didn't mention a white speaking. She easily could have, but I guess she was looking for someone that we could identify with and see that they could speak like that, and therefore we could speak like that. So that was just by the way.
And then also people in broadcast.
Yeah, people in broadcast, but yes, the people that So anyway, then I in church one day there was a gentleman who was in charge of multimedia, and he came up to me and he said, "Oh, can you do me a favor?" And he wanted to check. Well, he seemed to say that he wanted to check something. I assumed he wanted to check that the camera was. He filmed me and he asked me to say a sentence. I said sentence and he was like, "I knew it." And then as a result of that, he asked me to, because the church was moving from. We used to have like a physical paper bulletin with all our like announcements, and they were moving to
the digital platform.
they'd already moved to the digital platform where we had like 7 news where people come and read the news, and they had like 2 newscasters. But anyway, as a result of that, I then became one of the newscasters. The other 2 left, and so maybe they were leaving and they were looking for me. I don't know the detail of why he came for me. Well, I know because obviously God was just setting everything up, but I didn't know at that time. So I then ended up doing 7 News, which I did. I mean, we've stopped now, but I did for years, 14 years or something. And at one point, for 6 years, I was the only presenter. After that, we got new people in. So I was getting this, and it's this thing where you're reading, and he was I have to give him some credit actually, although I'm not going to say it to you personally, so I won't say his name, but I have to give him some credit because he was very strict about the way he was like, you cannot use an auto cue, you can't, because every time people use auto cues, they they become stiff. It's not natural, is it? So he kind of trained us to be very, So now the training. So obviously I did this thing forever, and then by mistake one day, I say by mistake, none of it is by mistake, but by mistake, by accident, one day, a friend of mine, because this is why you have to be faithful in the little. So every week I would go and record this thing. I wasn't thinking it was like my ministry in church. Didn't really think anything about it. Some people would say to me, "Oh, are you on the BBC? You're very good," But I always take compliments like that with a bit of, because you never really know. You never really know. I'm not saying they're lying, but sometimes people just say stuff and you don't know. So the only time I paid attention was one day when my pastor said to me, "Say, you're really good at this." And I thought, okay, I don't think he would be, I don't think he would just be saying it for
paying a compliment for the sake of it.
Yeah, yes. And he just said it, because he was watching it and he said, "Oh, you're really good at that." And I said, "Thank you," and that was it. But, I did have a lot of people that thought I was a newscaster in real life. You guys obviously don't watch the news. But then what then happened was one day Reverend Nims, I don't even know Reverend Nims Obunje, anyway, a particular he's a pastor, but he was running for mayor of London.
Okay.
And a friend of mine who was doing his media or something just called me up and she said, "What are you doing tonight?" I said, "Nothing." She said, "Meet me at the studio. I need you to interview Nims." So it's like that's training. So I got there, have no clue. I mean, I literally just turned up, and she was like, "Oh, we need to ask him a few questions." And I had the interview with him, and I remember him saying to me, "Sir, you're really good at, do you do this now?" So I was like, But I remember that day, that was the day that I thought, "Ooh, this is, you've been practicing for this for years, you know what I mean? But you didn't know that this was one of the things you're practicing for." Then I told you about the time. So all these things are accidental, right? Mistakes. And then a friend of mine was writing a script. I didn't know. He just asked me if I could edit something because he knew that my English, and he was like, "Can you have a read of it and edit it?" So I had a read of it, and of course I edited it. As I put words up. I really edited it. So when I sent it back to him, he was like, "Oh my gosh," because I think he just wanted me to
scan
he didn't expect me, and I was like, "This doesn't make sense. Put this there," type of thing. So he was like, "Oh, that it's actually for a film he's doing that. Will I get involved?" So I then became like one of the executive producers of that film. So all these things were happening, and I wasn't making the connection, right? Oh, I forgot to tell you the really important bit. When I was on maternity leave with my son, I had written out, you have a lot of time. That was the most important bit of this. Sorry. So I had written out
That was years before?
That was years before any of this happened.
Yes.
But after my mom had mentioned those.
Yeah, okay, the two.
So it was after, but like my time on TV.
Yes,
and
sure.
yeah, but it wasn't. It was before 7 News. So I had written out what I wanted to do, you know, and it was all about media. How I wanted to have my own chat show. I wanted to be making films. I wanted to have like a whole like TV studio. I wanted to have my own TV, you know, like just so that I could decide what was being produced, what was going out there, what was, you know, so almost like my TV network. I don't know how. So I'd written the whole.
I think that's what Oprah actually put forward as well at the time, because I listened to Oprah and she said it got to a stage when she was going to form OWN, and she wanted to own the rights to the media and to be in charge of what would be put out there.
But before Oprah said it, I had written it in my book.
Interesting.
But I didn't know Oprah. I mean, obviously at that point, Oprah had her chat show, and I loved her chat show. But that wasn't. She hadn't. All the rest wasn't there. But I had written it all out as what I wanted to do, and I'd gone as far as looking at what was on TV, and what was on Christian TV, what was on secular TV, and finding where I would fit it. I literally put 10 a.m. on a Monday. I would do this. Would be my show. I'd be right to the detail, and I said who I would co-host with, and all literally very detailed, and that was it. So sorry. Then the 7 News thing happened. Then you know, and then this thing happened with my friend where I ended up producing his thing. Now I was working in the church office, and a friend came in, long-time friend. He came in and he greeted me as usual, walked past me, and then came back behind me and was kind of hovering. And so I was like, oh, do you want something? He was like, no. But he was still hovering. And now the girl that used to sit behind me wasn't in. So I was like, are you here? Are you looking for her? He was like, no. So I was like, why are you hovering behind me now, please? So he then said to me, he said, I need to talk to you. So I said, okay, sit down. And I pulled the chair of the girl that sits there. And he was like, no, in private. So I was like, ooh, okay, because it's an open plan office.
Okay.
So I took him into my boss's office and he started stammering. And this is somebody that I know well. So I'm now thinking, okay, this is serious because for him to not be able to talk. So he then said to me, he said, I just said, spit it out. It's okay, I can handle it. He said that when he was walking past me, he thought something, but God said he should go back and tell me what he saw. So I was like, okay. Now, obviously, at this point, they were doing some media stuff for the TV, for the church. And he said, oh, I thought you were going to be the face of the church TV thing. But that God said that, and then he now said to me, do you know you're supposed to have a chat show? Do you know you're supposed to be making film? It's almost like he took my book and was reading things out. So I just burst out laughing because I'd literally just finished producing that Nollywood film that I'd done with my friend. So I said, oh, I just finished producing the film. I mean, he wasn't finding this funny at all, but I thought it was hysterical. I was like, I just finished producing the film. So he was like, you mean you know? I said, yes. He said, does your husband know? I said, yes. He said, what are you doing about it? It was like really like quite livid. And it became a pain in my butt because he was like, there's no way that you can have such a clear plan and you're not doing anything about it. I was like, I'm not ready. He was like, no. Put together a business plan. I'll take you in front of people. I was like, I can't do this. I'm not ready for this. Because in my mind, although I knew I had written this thing, until he brought it up then, I hadn't paid attention to all the things that were happening. And when he came and said that, I thought, wow, maybe there's something I'm supposed to be doing. I was like, I can't do what you're asking me to do. So 2 weeks or 3 weeks after that, I was at a friend's barbecue, and my husband's cousin, who for years had been saying to me, you need to leave this job, you are more than this, that you're supposed to be out, you should be doing this, you know, he's always like on my case. So whenever I speak to him, I'm like, oh God, here we go again, you know, I'm ready. So as I saw him and I was going to hug him, I thought, you know, brace yourself for this. And as he hugged me in my ear, he said, congratulations, you did it. So I was like, yeah, because I'm thinking this tweet is winding me up. So I said, yeah. Then he said, chat show, I didn't think he would leave. I'm so proud of you. So I said, yes. And I smiled. I'm still thinking he's winding me up. And off he goes, you know, we're at the barbecue and we're doing things. And I'm thinking at some point he's going to come back and say to me, April Fool or whatever, you know. And he doesn't. So towards the end of the evening, I said, please, what chat show are you talking about? So he looks at me really confused. And he said, the chat show now. So I said, what chat show? He said, didn't you phone me to tell me that you have left your job and you started your chat show? I just said, okay, Jesus, I've heard you. Because at that point, I was now like, because he was so, and you know, so he felt, and he was so sure that, so I don't know if it was a dream, a vision, I don't know what it was, but he was so convinced that I had called him to tell him. So he was now congratulating me, babe, you've finally done it, what I've been telling you to do all this time. So I then said to God, okay, I've got the message, I handed him my resignation, but I gave extended period of time. And
sure.
then I now thought in between this time I'll be doing things to, if I see a little course in something to do with media or whatever, I'll do that. So that's kind of how that happened. And then when COVID, so when I left in 2018, and my plan was that I thought maybe I should do a journalism course. I wasn't really sure what to do, but I just knew that as they have told me, I must be doing something in media, and I have to face that. So I was like, whatever little steps, what I was saying earlier about day by day, just one day at a time. Okay, is this a course I can do? Okay, is this? I was just looking for anything I could do, and then COVID happened. So I was like, okay, no. Before COVID happened, this is my first friend that had come in, and he was such a pain in my butt. God bless him, love him. You need friends like that.
Absolutely.
But because of that, I had gone and started a YouTube channel just to get him off my back. So when I just said to him, if I start a YouTube channel, he said, you must send me the link. I was like, oh my God. So I started a YouTube channel just to shut him up. I'll be honest, just to shut him up. I just thought if I start it, I don't have to be consistent. I'll do what I can, but at least he'll be off my back, because he was really on my case. So I did that. Now, when COVID then happened, I thought to myself, I said I was going to be doing things to do with media, so I need to be doing things to do with media. And now COVID has happened. I just thought, okay, let me go back to this YouTube channel and do something. So I set up a new one, which is called Shezaza.
Right.
And that's where
that's
where Shezaza
became alive.
And what I was doing then was inviting people into my space. During COVID, and I was trying to keep fit, because COVID,
right. Yeah, sure.
So I was doing exercises every day, and I was making my 4 children be by fire by force. They were my personal trainers. They didn't like it. But I was recording that and just filming it and putting it on social media. So that's why I said Shezaza has many aspects. So the first one started off with Forever Day Fitness, which is what I called that. So it was like my fitness journey, which I wanted it to be forever, as opposed to 2 week or whatever. Yeah. So we did that, and I did that first. But I knew when I started that okay, this is it. Now you have to do all those things. So chat show, you can do it here. Everything else you can do under this Shezaza umbrella. And I had also done in the time that I was looking, I'd done my research into black women on TV in the UK. And I saw that every single one of them had a background in journalism. So I was like, if you even want to be on their level, get a background in journalism. Because I think sometimes we forget that we have to equip ourselves.
Absolutely.
And so I was like, okay, I have to get a background, but I still didn't know how I was going to do it. But I'd looked at a couple of courses, so I had them, somewhere. But I was like, okay, at some point I'll get to this. So obviously I started my Shezaza. Am I talking too much? You can interrupt at any point.
Listen, it's interesting. This journey that you're describing, it's so similar to a lot of us when we are taking a journey in the journey of life. And there's certain points, there's certain things. I mean, I'm interrupting you now, so keep the thought. But I'm thinking that in the beginning, it's almost like you had somewhere that you had written down. And you talk about your faith. So it's like in the Bible where in Habakkuk, he says, write the vision, make it plain on the tablet, such that those that see it may run with it. So you'd written down what your desires were. And also it's almost as if God gives you the desire, and then you begin to formulate it, and then you've written it down. Then it required a trigger, somebody to come along to recognize that which God had already given you or ordained, and to remind you of it. So there was that. So it was like something inside you was seeking outward expression, but you didn't even know it, and it took somebody to come along. And again, it's what one of my mentors, Les Brown, says, that at times you have to look for somebody else whose belief in you is more than your own at that point in time, to carry you to a point where your own belief begins to kick in. So it sounds very much like those are the things that happened in this journey that you're describing. So let me let you carry on.
So we started with Forever Day Fitness on Shezaza. Now, I had always wanted, my husband. I feel my husband is a wealth of wisdom. He's always been wise beyond his years, but he doesn't do anything with it. And I'm like, come on now, there are men that you could be impacting, that that you really need to use the thing. But he's very, I guess, when something, I have the same problem, when something comes naturally to you, you don't appreciate it so much. So he's never been, so in my mind I was like, this man, I'm going to get him on Shezaza, and I'm going to get him speaking. So I came up with this idea of tete-a-tete with Tiwa. Now Tiwa is, because I'm Tinuke and he is Wale.
Right.
So Tiwa is something that we...
combination of
Yeah,
both
but
of
do you know where it came from?
Yes.
When we were toasting ourselves, or rather when he was toasting, when he was chasing me, we used to make cassettes. I don't know if your viewers know what cassettes are. So we used to make like cassettes with music on, and we'll just call it Tiwa. So that's how the Tiwa came, and all of our 4 children have a Tiwa name because of it. Because I didn't know that Tiwa, I didn't know what Tiwa meant when I was making the cassettes with Tiwa. But of course, Tiwa means ours in our language.
Yes.
So basically, I started this thing tete-a-tete with Tiwa, where I asked people to, I just reached out to all my like mentees, my younger people that are always asking questions about marriage and anything. I said, any questions you want to ask, just send them in. And so what Wale and I do on Tete-a-Tete with Tiwa is we just answer the questions from our perspective.
Yes.
But of course, the only reason it worked, like you see now, I haven't had a Tete-a-Tete with Tiwa for forever but it worked because it was lockdown and I had a captive.
Yes.
So we did a whole series for like a year. We had, we still do it, but it's few and far between now because he's just not as available as he was then. But then we literally were just answering questions. So we have the Forever Day Fitness and Tete-a-Tete. But I knew how I was going. I knew that I was going to do a Zaza Zooms In. So you see, Zaza is the umbrella. Absolutely. Zaza Zooms In is a chat show with my friends. We talk about any topic. Sure. Then Zaza Unzipped is where we talk about more controversial topics. And then there's like 3 more that are coming that haven't yet come out. So I just
different expressions.
Different expressions of the whole thing. Zaza, but at the moment, it's that bit is a chat show, but there's more to it. But funnily enough, it's, the way this thing works I'm trying to think when it was. I think it was, COVID was 2020.
Yes.
I think it was maybe 2021, my birthday. So just after I had done a lot of things, your friend, our mutual, the one that introduced you to me, called me up on my birthday to wish me a happy birthday. And you know what he's like. He soon started, he said, let me pray. I started praying. He just started prophesying. And as he was prophesying, it was like, it was coming to, so he's praying and he's, my sister, who is his wife, immediately now, she said it was as if it was like he just kept, something was just coming because she was there, but obviously she wasn't on the call. And I remember saying to him at some point, I wish I had recorded this. And so she pressed record and started recording. So I got some of the end of it. But basically what he was saying to me, because he doesn't follow me or anything, or he does now. But so he said, I can see you have something. It's like something with Z's. I don't know. There's a bit that, and he basically now said, so again, he took my book that I had written, to a different level. He said, you are supposed to, you're going to have a studio where people come to. He said, I can see it. It's in, he was, you know what he's like. He's very prophetic. So he went through all of that, and he was confused, and he kept saying, and it's, so I was laughing because a lot of it was already happened. Yes. But he obviously was completely oblivious, but he was now seeing and taking it further. So I mean, if I had any doubt about the fact that this is where I'm supposed to go, I don't. How I'm going to get there, the steps I'm going to take, I have no clue. But I'm just, you say again, that thing of you just do something every day. So my Shezas, I'm doing my Shezas. But of course, I had told you that I thought I needed to get something in journalism. So finally, last year, I started my master's in multimedia journalism. And that again was, God is just awesome. So I've been planning to do this. This was one of the ones I had spotted 6-7 years ago. But of course, there was never, where am I going to do it? I have so many children there. You know what I mean? And literally, the deadline was the start date was the 23rd of September to start the course. 16th of September, when the deadline for entry was, in June or whatever. 16th of September, I just thought, let me look and see. Because I was sitting down talking to my husband and I said, nobody's doing GCSEs this year. As in this next year. And nobody is doing A-levels. This is my slot. If I don't go in this year, the next year I have one doing A-levels, then the year after I have one doing GCSE. So I was like, this is my chance. So I literally looked, I said, it said that the deadline closed in whatever, but it still allowed you to apply. So I literally applied on the 16th and sent the thing. They asked for reference. So I think on the 17th I got an email saying we've got your reference and we're processing your application. So I was like, okay, great. So then I didn't hear anything, and I knew they started on the 23rd. So I'm like, well, what do I do? Do I leave it? And then I think it was on the 23rd I then sent a message to them saying, please can you let me know when I will hear back, because at this point I'm thinking school starts today, and and immediately he came back to me and said, oh sorry, yes, you've been accepted, but before I did all the enrollment etc. I started a week late. But it was just the way it happened. Like, why was it still open when they closed? Then they had accepted me immediately. Because when I now met my lecturer, she said I said yes immediately. That she doesn't know why it took a while for them to, And I wonder if I hadn't chased, whether I would have got the response in time to start. So it's just the way. And of course, so I'm now doing this course, which I love. I'm like a kid in a candy store. I know a lot of the stuff, but I'm learning new stuff as well. It's just brilliant. So I'm doing that. Do I know where I'm going with it? I have no idea. I just know that I'm doing what comes my way.
I can tell you where you're going with it. And this is not like a prophecy or anything like that. But from what I've listened to, it's almost like you've been on a journey. And that journey has had different pit stops. And at those pit stops, it's almost as if you were being prepared. You were being prepared for the next phase. It's like the Japanese say kaizen. Kaizen is like, culture of continuous improvement. It's like taking little steps. And those little steps have culminated in this that you're doing now. So at the end, it's almost like our children, when they go to university and they say that they go for a milk round, those kind of things where employers come and they say, okay, fine, come and do an internship and stuff like that. So it's almost like before this course ends, there will be people on the sidelines who are looking at you and saying, oh, as soon as you get qualified, please come and do this, come and do that, come and do that. That's where you're going. So it's like, it's uncanny. And it doesn't make sense. And that's the whole essence of this show. Things that don't make sense, because God has said that he will use the foolish things to confound the wise. So all those things that may seemingly be nonsense that happened, somebody coming up to you and telling you that, hey, do you know what God has planned for you? You saying that you wrote this thing down, very long time ago. It was at the time when you were pregnant with your son. I
think maternity leave, yeah.
Yes, exactly. And you being the host of the show in 7 church. Years. Yeah, exactly. And leaving that behind, and this, your husband's cousin, congratulating you. It's almost like saying somebody's, oh, congratulations, and you're like, what are you congratulating me for? So it's almost like it's already happened or it's been seen, and you just need to walk into it. So, and this for me is a journey that most people who have something to achieve will go through. So it's like the birthing. It's like, maybe a seed is planted, it's watered, and then all of a sudden it begins to sprout. And you're wondering, okay, fine, how is this thing going to sprout? And different people have different seasons, as they say. How long does it take to grow a fruit tree or tomato tree? Or how long does it take? The one that I know takes the longest is the bonsai tree, the Japanese bonsai tree. I think it takes about 10 years or something. So that's what it sounds like to me that you're going through. You may not know how, because that's not your job. Your job is the what. And just keep putting one foot in front of the other, one foot in front of the other. And then at the time when you get to another point, you're going to look back and say, oh, that's why that happened then. Oh, that's what happened then. If that hadn't happened then, I wouldn't have acquired what I have now that I'm able to use. So fantastic. I mean, that's all interesting. So in all of this, what is one truth that you've learned in this, your journey thus far?
One truth, I think, for me personally, and I think this is a very personal truth, is that you're good enough.
Interesting.
Because I think that I have a lot of abilities. I have a lot of skills and talents. But like I said, when you have something, a lot of the time you take it for granted, or you don't, maybe not even take it for granted, but you don't realize how great what you have is, because it comes so naturally to you, or it's, and so I have this thing where, and I'll give you an example. So for my university application, I had to get a reference, and the person that I asked for a reference, when she sent me the reference, I said, who are you talking about?
Wow.
I literally did. And then I read it again, and I said to my husband, I said, she's actually not lying. When I went back and read it bit by bit, I was like, she hasn't even exaggerated anything. Indeed. However, when I read it, I thought, who is she?
You don't see yourself like that.
You know what I mean?
You don't.
So I think for me, what I've learned in this entire thing is that you're good enough. You can do it. And obviously, this is all because of God. So I'm not saying it from a point of view of, but and obviously it's like, you just need, I think it's that thing, just take one step at a time and trust yourself.
Trust
whilst you're trusting God, type of thing.
What would your future self thank you for?
Wow. Never had that question before.
Absolutely.
What would my future self thank me for? I think my future self would thank me for being myself. Because I think one of the things, I'm fine now, but one of the things, and to be fair, okay, but I struggled with low self-esteem earlier on in my life. And when I said at the beginning, I said I like to rock my own gorgeous, because I actually started a thing called Rock Your Own Gorgeous, which was about self-confidence, particularly for women. But I realized, funny enough, when I started it, that a lot of men were interested in it, which I hadn't even, it wasn't even on my radar. I thought this is a woman thing, it's women that struggle with this, but clearly not. So I basically then began to rock my own gorgeous. I was like, Tinuke, you have something that is gorgeous. You don't want to rock with a Miss Gorgeous or everybody.
Be yourself.
Just rock your own gorgeous. And so I think that my future self will thank me for realizing that and living up to it. As in actually, because I really rock my own gorgeous. As in, I don't even care. I'm gorgeous and I rock it.
Yes, and that is Tinuke's story. Tinuke, I'd like to thank you so much for being on our show. But one thing that I take out of this is that we're all on a journey. And this is Tinuke's journey, and there's several stages of the journey that different things have happened. For me, one of the most important things that she mentioned is about her faith. Your faith can move mountains. So what you believe can either destroy you or make you. And your faith obviously has grounded you and carried you thus far. Second is the resilience, that thought process of no matter what, I'm going to get through it. I may not know how, but I know that we're going to get through this and we're going to go over it. And the third is the acquisition of skills. Because so many people think that, I want to do this, I don't know how to do that. Not knowing that, yes, you need to acquire tools in order to accomplish something. I remember, I think it was Abraham Maslow that said, if the only tool that you have in your toolbox is a hammer, you will see every problem as a nail.
Yes.
So most people try and use the hammer to accomplish a lot of other things, not knowing that they require different tools. And the acquisition of tools is what liberates you, essentially. And you're taking steps. So it's the Kaizen. Little steps, little progress, little steps, little progress. And I can't wait for the next stage of the journey. I can't wait for that next stage of the journey.
You're very lucky that now people know you know me, because when I blow, I won't be able to deny you.
So that brings us to the end of this episode today. So thank you so much, Tinuke, for your time.
Me.
And thank you for inspiring our audience to be the greatest version of themselves, knowing that whatever challenge you encounter in life, it's possible to overcome it. Even when life gets interrupted, you just need the right tools in order to come out of it and look back once you've come out of it, and you can pinpoint, this is what happened, that is what happened, that is what happened. Don't give up hope. Until we come your way again, this is Jacob Shumwe, the Enabler. Sense in nonsense when life gets interrupted. Thank you.
Yeah.